You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Sports fans, welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start by previewing the Final Four. By Sunday, we will know who will be going at it for the college basketball national championship. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm just going to get right into it with Houston versus Baylor. Now, if you'll recall, on Tuesday, I was critical of the Cougars' performance against Oregon State. And I stand by that. Let's be honest. Houston did not play well in that game. They shot just 32% from the field. They missed a third of their free throws. The only reason they won that game was because they dominated the glass. The Beavers only had 27 rebounds. The Cougars had 38. Oregon State only had 7 offensive rebounds. You know how many Houston had? 18. That's why Houston won. It was because they dominated the glass. Realistically, if they want to win this game, they can't rely on that again. They've got to be better offensively. I mean, it's funny. When you look at the three big guns that Houston has, Quentin Grimes, Marcus Sasser, and Dejan Jarreau, they each scored in the double digits. Sasser had 20, Grimes had 18, Jarreau had 10. But when you look at efficiency, it's dreadful. None of those guys shot higher than 34% from the field. Grimes, 33 and a third. Jarreau, 30.8. Sasser, 26.3. They kept shooting because, of course they did. Houston doesn't have anyone else. But don't be confused by the raw totals. They did not play well. I mean, I shouldn't be too critical of Jarreau because he almost had a triple-double. 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. And the game before that against Syracuse, he had 9 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. He's been fine. I can't get on him as much as I can Grimes and Sasser. Those guys need to step up and be more efficient. But like I said on Tuesday, I just don't think they have a shot against this Baylor team. I was really unimpressed with Houston. I was very impressed with Baylor. The way that they absolutely dominated Arkansas. They went out to a big lead. Arkansas chipped away and chipped away. You thought, okay, maybe the Razorbacks can come back again. No, Baylor just kept slamming the door right in their face. The number one thing I'd say to Baylor, as cliche as this is don't rock the boat. Stick with what got you here. You've got everyone playing really well. Masio Teague, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Adam Flagler off the bench has had a really good tournament. Baylor is clicking on all cylinders right now. You've got to be really happy for Baylor. Very easy story to get behind. First Final Four appearance in 71 years. The coach comes from a great basketball family. It's just a very easy story to get behind. And also, I'll say this, going back to the rebounding. Houston's not going to be able to destroy Baylor on the glass like they destroyed Oregon State. The Bears have some really good rebounders on their team. Guys like Mark Vidal, Jonathan Chachua, and Flo Thamba are all really good rebounders. They're going to make Justin Gorham's life very difficult. Gorham got the most rebounds out of any Cougar on Tuesday. He had 10 rebounds. The thing is, though, he was just going up against one Beaver, Warith Alatish. That's it. Just one guy. I mean, Alatish is probably a better rebounder than Vidal and Chachua and Thamba. But the three of them together, that's tough for just one person to deal with. I don't see how Houston wins this game. I'm really low on them right now. I said it on Tuesday. I'll say it again. The Baylor Bears will be in the March Madness title game. Moving on now to Ucla Gonzaga. If UCLA is going to win this game, they need someone other than Johnny Juzang to step up. As great as Juzang has been, and he has been fantastic, at this very moment, he'd probably get the tournament's Most Outstanding Player award. But I don't care how great Juzang is. He's not going to be able to keep up with the Zags by himself. Do you know the lowest number of points that the Bulldogs have put up in this tournament? 83 against Creighton in the Sweet 16. If no one else shows up, you're asking Juzang to put up like 50 points. That's not going to happen. Some other Bruins have to show up. I'm talking Jaime Jaquez, Jules Bernard, Tiger Campbell, even Cody Riley. You need your offense clicking on all cylinders when you're going up against this Gonzaga team. No one has been able to keep up with them. Literally no one. We all know this. They're undefeated. The only chance you have, if you're Mick Cronin's team, is to have basically your whole starting five show up. I know that's a tough ask. I mean, how often does any team have their whole starting five at 100%? I'm not talking health-wise, I'm talking performance-wise. Where you have all those guys playing at their peak. It doesn't happen a lot. But that's the only chance that UCLA has to win this game. That's the only way that they can hope to keep up with this excellent Bulldogs team. As for Gonzaga, they need to control the tempo. UCLA did an outstanding job of slowing the Michigan game down. It was a lot of defensive stops, a lot of possessions where there were 20 seconds off the shot clock before the first shot was taken. It was very methodical. And give the Bruins credit, it worked. It's what they had to do to beat the Wolverines. And I fully expect them to do that tomorrow. The thing is, though, Mark Few's a really smart guy. Fantastic coach. And his players are smart. I'm sure they were watching on Monday. They saw that that's how the Bruins are going to try to beat a team as talented as Michigan. All due respect to MSU, BYU, ACU, and Alabama. But Michigan is by far and away the most talented of the Bruins' opponents in this tournament. UCLA recognized that. So they slowed down the pace. They controlled the tempo the whole game. Great job by them. But now that Gonzaga knows what's coming, it's very easy to prepare for it. Long stretch passes, transition threes, try for layups or dunks when you need to. Basically just run a Mike D'Antoni style offense. And that plays perfectly into Gonzaga's hands. I mean, I'd like to say that we're going to have two great Final Four games. These are going to be instant classics. We're going to be watching them for years to come. I can't say that here. I really think that UCLA tipped their hand here. I don't see how they can play Gonzaga any differently than how they played Michigan. If they don't try to slow the game down, then they need their five guys to show up. You know Juzang will. Jaquez probably will, although, let's be honest, he didn't against Michigan. It's a tough ask. It is the route I would go. I just don't think you're going to have much luck slowing down the pace against Gonzaga. USC tried it. It didn't work. I think both these games are going to be routes. I think we're looking at a Baylor-Gonzaga final. That should be really fun. I'll say that. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. And I have to start with the Brooklyn Nets. LaMarcus Aldridge made his first appearance in a Nets jersey yesterday in a game where he didn't play with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Blake Griffin. Admittedly, I was thinking to myself, I don't think the Nets have a great chance in this game. Anything's possible, but I'm not sure how the Nets are going to do here. They're going up against a good Hornets team. It's the back end of a back-to-back for the Nets. They're without their two best players. I don't like the Nets' chances here. Realistically, that game was over in the first quarter. At the end of one, the Nets were up 32-11. If you tripled the number of points that the Hornets scored, they'd only be up by one. I don't know what the lowest number of points in a quarter the Nets have given up this year is. But off the top of my head, it seems like they broke it yesterday by only giving up 11 points. In fact, that may be the lowest mark in franchise history. I don't know. I would really need to dig into it. Aldridge just gave this team such a lift defensively. Contesting every shot, more competent on the perimeter than Jordan. Look, I've defended Jordan, but I'll be honest with you. He may not have a spot on the Nets going forward. I mean, for the rest of the year, obviously you know Griffin and Aldridge are going to get their minutes. Who would you rather see? Nick Claxton or DeAndre Jordan? The answer is Claxton. Is Claxton more likely to get his minutes slashed? I thought so, but realize, Jordan got a DNP yesterday. Claxton played 13 minutes. And you know what? He's a better defender than Jordan. He does a lot of things better than Jordan. He's not a better dunker. He's not a better finisher in the low post. But rebounding, it's close. Defensively, Claxton has Jordan all day. I can't tell you how many possessions I've seen Jordan not have his hand up, not close out on the perimeter. God, it's infuriating. Makes me feel like an idiot for supporting him. And if you want to look ahead to next year, I don't know if Griffin's gonna come back. I don't know if Aldridge is gonna come back. I don't even know if I want them back. It's obviously a very limited sample size, but I'll say this. There is a world where I advocate for the Nets to get rid of DeAndre Jordan. I don't know if you're going to be able to trade him. Obviously, the Nets don't have any first rounders. What, they're going to have a 2028 first rounder? That's not enough for me to take on DeAndre Jordan's contract. I want a more recent first rounder than 2028. Do seconds get the job done? I don't know. The Jordan contract isn't incredibly onerous. It's not a good contract by any stretch, but it's not as bad as, say, Al Horford's contract. Jordan's making under $10 million a year for the next 2 seasons. Seconds could do it. Theoretically. But going back to yesterday's game, the way this team played against a good Hornets team, a team that's the 4 seed right now, the Nets are unbeatable. How are you beating this team 4 times in 7 games? It's impossible. They only allowed 89 points in a game where they didn't have 3 of their best defenders. Kevin Durant is one of the best defenders in the NBA. James Harden is a very competent defender. Blake Griffin is a good defender. How are you beating this team? The Nets got into first place without Kevin freaking Durant. When he comes back, forget just first place in the Eastern Conference. They could end up with the best record in the NBA. Look, are they going to have defensive showings like that every game? The answer is no. But I think their defense has improved to the point where they don't need to count on winning 130, 129 games. They can say, you know what? We can hold this team to under 110 points. And with this Nets offense, Durant, Harden, Irving, Harris, Green, Griffin, Aldridge, Shamet, that's more than sufficient. I don't care what team the Nets face, barring any unforeseen injuries. It seems like Durant is going to be back either next week or the week after. It doesn't seem like the Harden injury is that serious. And Griffin sitting out was just load management. Barring anything unforeseen to a key player of the Nets, they have to be the odds-on title favorites. I don't care what team you throw at them. The Celtics, the Knicks, the Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Jazz, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Blazers. I don't care. The Nets are beating them all. If sports betting was legal in New York, I'd put a decent chunk of change on the Nets to win the NBA title. Now, the Heat do scare me a little bit. They are excellent defensively. Obviously, they have Jimmy Butler. They have Bam Adebayo. They added Victor Oladipo at the trade deadline. They have Andre Iguodala. And you saw how tough this new Heat team can be. The Heat beat the Warriors yesterday, 116-109. Now, granted, Oladipo wasn't incredibly impressive or anything. 6 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. Didn't hit a 3. And yeah, Steph Curry went off for 36. He also had 11 rebounds. Yes, Andrew Wiggins had 23 points. Yes, Draymond Green nearly had a triple-double. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. He also had 4 steals. But this is a team that, as Oladipo gets more comfortable, is going to become scarier and scarier. Oladipo's going to get more comfortable in that offense. He's going to take more shots. His defense will still be there. I mean, a trio of Oladipo, Butler, and Adebayo. I can't think of a better trio of players defensively that's on the same team. There are teams that will be tougher for the Nets than others. the Heat are one of those teams. Moving on now to Nuggets Clippers. A battle of two teams that have a pretty good chance of winning the West. I'm not saying one of those two teams are gonna win the West. I'm just saying that it's not unreasonable to pick either team. Now, you've got to give the Nuggets a ton of credit. They thoroughly outplayed the Clippers. The Clippers literally never led in this game. Outside of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Terrence Mann coming off the bench, the Clippers really didn't get much production from anyone offensively. Whereas the whole Nuggets starting five, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic, all scored at least 14 points. This is a scary Nuggets team. Adding Gordon makes them a lot better. It moved Paul Millsap to the bench, which is where he should be at this stage in his career. Gordon seems to be fitting in seamlessly on his new team. Jamal Murray is still one of the most underrated players in the NBA. Nikola Jokic is still one of the best centers in the NBA. The Western Conference is wide open. I don't want to hear that it's the Lakers' conference to lose. You want to tell me, oh, when LeBron and AD come back, they're going to be rested, the Lakers will be fine, don't worry about them. There are still some really good teams in that conference. Even with LeBron and AD, the Jazz may be better. Overall, they may have a better roster. Overall, the Nuggets may have a better roster. The Clippers will play them tough. The Blazers will play them tough. I'm not sold on the Suns. Once they go up against those better teams in the West in the playoffs, I just don't trust them. But I'm selling Lakers stock. Will they make the playoffs? The answer is yes. Will they make some noise when they're there? The answer is yes. Will they win the Western Conference? I think the answer is no. Alright, now I'll give you some MLB Valk talk. No, not on any games. It was opening day. You can't read too much into anything. I don't care that the Yankees didn't produce with runners in scoring position. There's a lot of time to fix that, even though Aaron Boone has never shown a true desire to want to fix it. The number one thing that bugged me was Mike Tauchman getting thrown out at home in the ninth. I don't care that you're running on contact. Wait until the ball gets into the outfield. I hate running on contact. The Blue Jays have the infield in. They want you to run. You played right in their hands. That loss did bug me, but I don't want to go too crazy over it. I also really can't say much about Mets Nationals being postponed. Now it's the whole series. Yeah, it stinks. There's no question. But we're going to have this all year. Does it stink that it's opening day? Absolutely. And if you're a Mets fan, you're waiting all off season to see Lindor, McCann, Trevor May, And even the holdovers, guys like Alonzo, McNeil, Davis, Smith, Conforto, Nimmo. Obviously DeGrom. But this is going to happen all year. Games are going to be postponed. The schedule is going to be shuffled around. We're going to get 7-inning doubleheaders, which I hate. It's okay to be upset about it. There's just not much I can say about it. Look at it this way. At least it wasn't your team that had the COVID outbreak. The baseball story that I really want to talk about is the Angels signing David Fletcher to a 5-year extension worth $26 million. This is a great move for the Angels. I said this yesterday. I'm a big Fletcher fan. I think he's very underrated. Hits for a good average, has good speed, very versatile defensively. I really, really like him. For the Angels to lock him up to a deal that equates to just a little over $5 million per year, I understand that it doesn't really shake out that way. The salaries do go up and up and up as the contract matures. But still, when you boil it down to the ground, $5 million a year for one of the most underrated players in baseball, that's really good. You now have a good core in place if you're Perry Manassian for the foreseeable future. You've got Fletcher, you've got Anthony Rendon, and of course, you've got Mike Trout. The Angels' future is bright. Make no mistake about it. There was a death in the baseball world that I want to talk about, and that is Ken Reitz, whose death was announced yesterday, but he actually died on Wednesday at the age of 69. It's okay if you're not intimately familiar with the name Ken Reitz. It's actually very apropos. Here's a guy who was a third baseman in the same era as guys like Mike Schmidt, George Brett, and Greg Nettles. You're not going to get many headlines if you're Reitz. But Reitz, throughout the early 70s into the early 80s, was a very good third baseman. When Reitz came up, the Cardinals already had a pretty good starting third baseman. You may have heard of him. His name is Joe Torre. Now, he had played third base for the Cardinals for a couple seasons. In fact, in 1971, his MVP season, Torre didn't play a game at any position other than third base. But the Cardinals really wanted Reitz to play third, so they moved Torre back over to first, where he came up as a member of the Milwaukee Braves. Reitz made that decision look very smart. He earned the nickname Zamboni because he handled the artificial turf at Busch Stadium with such ease. In 73 and 74, he led all NL third basemen in fielding percentage. And in 75, he won his only Gold Glove. That's what Reitz is best remembered for. Being an incredible fielder. Think like Gio Urshela before he got to the Yankees. I mean, Reitz was no slouch with the bat. He'd hover around a 260, 270 average. Not much power. But he could drive runners in. He was a singles hitter. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. I'll take a guy like Ken Reitz on my team any day of the week. The Cardinals traded him to the Giants in 1976. Pretty quickly, they realized that they made a mistake. They traded Reitz so that Hector Cruz could start at third. Cruz was not a good player. So the Cardinals traded back for him, and Reitz responded by having his best offensive season. He hit .261 with 17 homers and 79 RBIs. Once again, he led the National League in fielding percentage as a third baseman. And he did that the year after, where he hit .246 with 10 homers and 75 RBIs. In 1980, Reitz played in his only All-Star game. He hit .270 with 8 homers and 58 RBIs for the Cardinals that year. Once again, he led the National League in fielding percentage as a third baseman. And he did it the year after. But that year, he was a member of the Chicago Cubs. In Reitz's career, he had a .970 fielding percentage at third base. That is the 9th best mark in baseball history. For whatever it's worth, Placido Polanco has the record with a .983 career fielding percentage at third base. And Polanco is also one of 2 players in baseball history to have won a Gold Glove at multiple positions. The other one? Darren Erstad. How's that for a good trivia question? Like I said, Reitz got overshadowed a lot. He just had the misfortune of playing in the same era as some of the best third basemen in baseball history. But that shouldn't take away from the fact that Ken Reitz was a really good ball player. It's a shame that he died the day before opening day. May he rest in peace. Brooklyn Nets Show comes your way Monday night. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that I try not to break the rules, but merely to test their elasticity.